This is light work. Come on, spill the tea. Yeah. Ooh.
Hey y'all.
Look good.
I'm Laura.
I'm Dee, and welcome to Spill the Tea with Laura and Dee. Talking about vetting contractors.
Ew. His job.
Contractors. So, how'd we do it? Basically, we just set up the process of, we bring them out there. We get them to... Did I do that
No, we
first?
ran an ad first. That was a shit show.
How did we run the ad?
Facebook, I think. We got on Facebook on all of the flipping sites.
Right.
You'll have lots of calls, lots of emails.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did we get the ones that we liked? Because I think two of the ones we liked, you already knew.
So a couple of them came as referrals. Talking to people that you know, talking to people that you trust. If you've got a plumber, ask them. If you've got an electrician, ask them. An HVAC person, ask them. Make sure you know if you're looking for a handyman or a true general contractor. So understand the job requirements as well. And then from there, weeded through all of the resumes. I mean he.
So that part, I feel like is a little easier to me because it's a little straightforward. But I guess we had a process,
You had a process around it.
Look, I had a process, but for you, we had a process, right?
Fair enough.
But, just starting off with, kind of going through the application, I always try and get the entity name so I can look them up on Secretary of State. Then I'll look them up on Dun & Bradstreet if they're there. And then from there, I'll just go to reviews. So I always start with Yelp, and then I actually go to... So we'll ask them for references. And that's something, we didn't start off doing that. That was a recommendation, and after I started doing it, we didn't have any more problems.
Yeah, so recommendations, that was a huge aha for me. Checking their license. I don't think a lot of us think about that, but it's also another good thing to do is to go back and check, and I'm thankful that he did it for sure. So those are my two big ahas as new to that side of flipping. So I encourage you guys to kind of take that away as well.
Right. And then also, so with the insurance, so I actually just thought, I found something out that I'm going to use next time. Before I had to call to verify. Because
verify
they would,
insurance?
Correct. Because you would get a certificate of insurance. It'd have the information on it, and I would call, especially if...
So let me ask you a question, since I didn't know the answer to this. Why would you need their insurance if you're flipping a property with a contractor?
Oh, right. Look, I'm glad she does this. Sometimes I just kind of...
He forgets we don't know what's in his brain.
Right. So if you think about it, you're flipping a house, right? A lot of funds involved. You're going to be spending anywhere between, maybe a $20,000 flip, maybe a $100,000 flip. Regardless, we're talking 5 figures, even if it's 4 figures, 6 figures. You kind of want to start thinking about how to manage your risk. And one of your risks is you get a shitty contractor, or you get a contractor that can't finish the job. And so you want to look at certain insurance requirements you want to enforce certain insurance requirements. Basically, that's when people say, you want someone licensed and bonded. Well, it's a completion bond insurance policy and general liability. You never really know that, but that's what you're looking for. Completion bond covers, if they can't finish the job and don't have the funds for it. And then general liability is just, if they mess something up, a contractor gets hurt and it was theirs, that covers all of that stuff. And that takes that risk off of you. But it's just like, if you don't call to verify that there's an actual insurance policy, well, you're thinking you're transferring the risk, but you're not. You're holding it.
Right.
So.
And you also had them actually add our project to the policy.
Correct, as an additional insured. And so what I've recently found out is we'll actually start asking the contractors to have the insurance company send it to us directly. Because at that point, I don't have to call and verify. Otherwise, you have to call and verify. Hey, I see that we're added as additional insured. I'm just calling to confirm because I've gotten to know once or twice, So
we didn't go with them.
Right. So that's kind of the process.
Right. Interviewing and then vetting, for sure.
So what was it like kind of, I guess, managing it? I guess that was kind of...
So to me, the next step is hiring them.
Right.
That was the shit show. Like that was not good.
So how many times did we hire?
Well, we only signed one contract. Let's be very clear about that.
Well, so even before that, though, because it wasn't a general contractor. I think it was a handyman.
Correct. So at first, our project didn't have quite as much going on. And it was more, we're just going to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we got into it, the more we realized there's probably going to be a need for electrical and, you know, more than just making it pretty again. And so we decided at that point, I believe you're right. I don't remember who it was. We decided at that point, that's when we were going to start interviewing. You know, it was more of he did the background check and then you go with your gut. And our gut changed its mind at the last minute. That didn't go over so well.
Right.
So we had verbally committed and we were getting a little frustrated. We asked that everything be in writing, married to an attorney, just, you know, good practice in business. And as we were waiting on the paperwork, somebody that my husband works with found out about the project and was like, oh, here's David. Let him go check out the project. And really and truly...
ultimately went with.
Yeah, really and truly, I said, fine, whatever, because we were happy with our contractor. And at the end of the day, we just said, fine, to appease the client who was trying to be nice, you know, do a favor for his attorney's wife or whatever. And David came out and I was like, yeah, he's hired.
Yeah, so do you remember, like, one of the big things that was for you?
Well, I felt like he understood my vision and I didn't have to say it a lot. So that was huge for me, whereas with other contractors, I would repeat myself. And
do you remember the material list?
Well, that's what I was about to get to in a second. And then the second thing was, so I felt like he got it, but then the other thing was he was okay with how we wanted to do the construction. We wanted to stay in charge of ordering materials because here's a big clue, guys. Like, they marked that shit up like 3 times, right? So we knew if we stayed in charge of ordering that we could save big time or do bigger things with our project. And I think we kind of did a combination of both. We cut down on materials. Now, what was really cool about David is Home Depot is a nightmare. They're not fun to order from. But if we were really struggling, David would offer his services, right? And so I think that was kind of the big thing for me was he got our vision, but more importantly, he was willing to work with us on the project exactly how we wanted to be worked with. And when we said we want a contract, he was like, great, here's mine. We were like, great, here's the changes. And it was signed overnight. And that's what happened with contractor number 1. I had asked and asked. I mean, we were probably on week 3 and no one was in a hurry because the house was in probate at that time. But we were never a huge priority. With David, we were like in and out with him. And so I think that's what solidified it.
Right.
For us.
He checked up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He called a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Mm-hmm. Something else you don't find in contractors. Contractors normally don't call.
No, because, and we'll talk about, I think we're talking about orders and inventory on the next episode. But I mean, even with that, you know, to your point, there was some times where we were kind of struggling. And I think he just kind of stepped in and was like, hey, you know, what is it that you need? And I would tell him exactly what it was. You know, we'd go through it. And, you know, what was it one time? With the trim, I think when I called him, he was like, well, I was actually planning on going to my supplier soon. Do you want me to just get you a quote? You know, so. Yeah.
And I think he even worked with us on the price there because he knew how important it was for us to stay within budget because, you know, we had a budget that was minimal and we needed to stay within it to hit our goals, which we did. And so that was nice as well. That was kind of a bonus on the end. And I think that came with the relationship we built. Right? So you hire them, then you fire them because you don't sign the contract, then you actually sign the contract. Then you got to work with them. That was fun. Mm-hmm. He was actually really easy to work with.
He was. It was almost like he would put up a fight if he knew it was going to mess with like his craftsmanship. But if it was like a design thing or if it was like, you know, you want a door here, you want a door here, it's just like, no, we want it here. He'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Cool. And just did it. And didn't mind. So a question I would ask in interviewing is how do you handle design changes? Mm-hmm. We had no issues, right? Which was great because we made a couple last minute changes and then there was something they did where they put a door where it wasn't supposed to be. And, you know, we never told them to put it there, although it said the word door on the wall. The door wasn't supposed to be there. And so they came out and they changed it. So I would ask, how do they troubleshoot? How do they handle issues and changes in the design during actual construction? That's important because things are going to come up.
Right. And so actually you want to make sure that's in the contract as well. It's like a little change order section. So
Yes.
because otherwise it gets, so you get cost overruns, and then you get, so many mess ups, and then so many things get missed because you don't have an actual change order. It's like,
Correct.
well, where are the pipes at? Like, well, I didn't know you wanted to do them. It's like, I thought we talked about it. Is there a change order?
Right.
If there's no change order, then it may not have happened, so it just kind of helps.
Right. That's important. That was very important.
Right.
All the paperwork, there was definitely a trail. And I would say that was nice because at the end, when the home was sold and we had the inspection done, there were two very small things. And one, they said the toilet was loose. It wasn't. The toilet seat wiggled a little bit, but the toilet wasn't actually loose. And then we had just forgotten to put screens back on the crawl space. So it was easy. Mm-hmm. The work, I mean, I would say 100% of the people that viewed the property were impressed.
Oh my gosh. It was so frustrating too. It's like, the house is amazing.
But I don't have enough money.
Don't have enough money.
How'd you go look at it? What?
Right. It's like best option in this price range. Don't have the money though.
We sold it to one of them.
Yeah,
but now we're on to the next, or looking for the next.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And we still hit our goals and made money.
Mm-hmm. We made money on that one. So
it's true.
So do we want to jump into our question quickies?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so basically what I did this time is I just kind of asked people that kind of keep up with us, if you could ask a real estate investor anything, what would you ask? So the first one I got: how would you go about managing a property in a different state?
Hire a management company. They are very reasonably priced. So when you're running your numbers on the purchase, make sure that when you're looking at the net income every month, that you've taken out that 10 or 8%. So most of the time there's a percentage for what the monthly rent is, usually somewhere between 8 to 15-ish% in Georgia is what I see. And then they will also charge a percent for each repair. That's kind of how they make their money. And then when they get you a new tenant, there's an additional fee for that. And there's just a few fees here and there or whatever. So make sure you're running those numbers. Make sure you're talking to the management companies. Make sure you use somebody local as well, is another big piece of advice. Sometimes there's bigger management companies. That's great if you've got multiple properties in multiple states. That might be easier. And if you're that big, maybe seeing if you could get your own management company put together might even be worth your while at that point. But find somebody local, find somebody who knows the market, who understands how to get your home the most amount of money. Because just like a sale, if you've got bright pink on a bedroom wall, well, nobody wants to live in bright pink. Like, let's just be real. And so that's got to be painted. So have, a little bit of a budget as well in there, and make sure you have a management company that's going to oversee those kind of things when you're looking at buying someplace that you don't live, unless your dad lives next door.
I was about to say, what if you found a property and you got family next door?
Yeah. So I do have a rental property out of state. My dad does live next door and he takes care of it. But I also have real estate connections down there. So when something breaks on it, I've got somebody that I can call fairly quickly. I think it would hurt my feelings if I didn't let my dad do it. So anyway, he does it for me.
Fair enough. I would say with minimal experience, I've mostly kind of seen you and my dad do it, but it's always been areas where like you've already got boots on the ground. Like my dad went to Wetumpka in Montgomery. Half my family's down there.
Right.
And so for you, your dad lives next door. And I think when I was listening to somebody else, they were saying, we just go places that they visit a lot. So, because
that would be an Airbnb. So if you had a rental, so I guess I should, did it clarify?
We didn't clarify that, but we can definitely open it up.
So let's back up.
If it's wait, I want to finish.
Fine. I do that all the time. Sorry.
So, it's, I would say really the first step is kind of getting a feel for the area first and having those connections first. Because I feel like just being in a situation where you've got a property however many thousand miles away and then something happens, and sure, you may have a management company out there, but you ain't got nobody else. So now you got to drive up there to check on them. Or, I don't know.
Well, so the management company will, if you hire a good one, you're in good hands, and you should never have to. They should be able to, if there's a storm, they should be able to go and deal with the insurance claim and all of that kind of stuff. But Airbnbs are actually a little bit easier. People are managing those if they don't have a lot of them on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So to manage that on their own, a lot of the websites that you will use for an Airbnb to post your Airbnb on, they help you manage the back end, the paperwork, the contracts, and help you stay legal on that end. I don't do it personally, so I don't know a ton about it. But they put a lock on the house that you can change digitally. Mm-hmm. And then they get a great cleaning lady. And that cleaning lady is your kind of boots on the ground in that area. Mm-hmm. And what they'll do, so if you're doing an Airbnb, you want to have social media presence, whether you like it or not. The people in your home are going to want it there. And so a lot of times you'll do like a wall that is an Instagram wall. And so you may have your housekeeper change that out based on season. Right. So if it's, if you're up in Snowshoe, West Virginia in the summer, people are mountain biking and having yoga retreats. So you may have your wall, mm-hmm. Something that has something to do with those sports. And in the winter, it would be snow sports. So you would maybe change that out to be snow sports. In addition to that, you'd want your housekeeper or the person cleaning the home to go in and do the letterboards, right? And you just welcome Cook family. Right. And then they also will leave a small something or other. And what's starting to happen is the housekeepers, they're starting to create these little networks of people kind of in high trafficked Airbnb areas. So the housekeeper will help you set up your plumber, right. Your electrician, your whatever. Now, to your point, if there's a storm, I probably would go and not leave my home in the hands of my housekeeper. So that is, that's probably just a little err on the side of caution there. But I think right. that, I think it depends on what your goals are. Right. If you're short term, you probably can do it on your own if you have a good team. If you're doing more of a 6 month to a year lease, I would go manage my company.
Right. Sweet. So I'll ask one more. Do you foresee the cost of housing decreasing anytime soon?
If you move to California, they're down all over the state right now.
Oh, wow.
Because they've been, so the West Coast is down, and they will continue to go down. They have not seen a decrease in home prices on any kind of substantial, consistent. I mean, you ebb and flow, right? But no actual drop in home value. I think in 4 decades is what the research we pulled the other day said. So if you look at a map right now of the United States, it depends on where you are. If you're out west, your home values are going down. I mean, they've been going up and up and up and up for years. And if you're in the southeast, man, you are green as can be. So we saw a 6% increase in home values from November to now this year. Yep, that means that the normal 6% increase that we see as a nation, we're tracking that every 6 months, so we're double that. Wow. So it's interesting to see what happens at the end of the spring market. These inflated prices and the inflated interest rates are not deterring buyers. And if you go back and look at the numbers through history, you'll see that every time we've had an increase in our interest rates, like a huge increase like this, home values didn't go backwards. They actually increased with the interest rate, with the exception of 2008.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. All data we pulled a few months ago.
Sweet. Mm-hmm. I had a question on that one too, but we'll save that.
Perfect.
Well, that brings us to the end of Spill the Tea.
With Laura and Dee. What he said. We'll get it at some point, I promise.
Stay tuned.
This is light work. Come on, spill the tea. Yeah. Ooh.